You will get the most from any Systems to Win video when you launch it from its video home page.
In this video, you're going to learn the single most important Excel skill that you'll ever learn. Most people think that they know how to insert rows or columns, but most people do it wrong. How do most people insert new columns or rows? A newcomer to Excel might simply right-click, Insert Rows. And on some simple spreadsheets, you can get away with that, but it's often a bad idea to simply insert rows, because your inserted rows might be missing hidden formulas or formatting that you might not even notice are missing at first glance. So if that's the wrong way, what's the right way? The first thing to do is to look in the Systems to Win menu to see if there's a special button to add rows. Let's fast forward about 12 years to the new version of the FMEA and notice that in the Systems to Win tab in the Excel ribbon bar, there's now a new button to add rows. After selecting the row below where we want to add a new row, let's click that button. And a dialog shows up that asks, are you sure that you want to add another row above where you've selected? And we click the OK button to say, yep, I'm sure. And look there, there's a new row. And you can be sure that your inserted row is formatted correctly and that it copied all the formulas correctly. Not only the formulas in those blue cells that you'll find on just about every Systems to Win template that has an Add Rows button, but also when you use your Add Rows button, it will automatically unprotect and reprotect the sheet for you so that you don't accidentally mess up formulas on an unprotected sheet. And if we select multiple rows before clicking the Add Rows button, then when we click OK, it inserts that many new rows, and each of them have correct formatting and formulas. Now some templates might have a button that works slightly differently. For example, on this swim lane flowchart template, we have to first select any one of these gold cells for process time. And then when we click the button to add or remove rows or columns, we get presented with several different choices for what do we want to do. Let's go ahead and add columns to the left. Again, it will ask, are you sure that's what you want to do? And when we click OK, it inserted not just one column, but an entire group of related columns that all need to work together. And the value stream map has a similar button. In fact, it has a couple of buttons that have their own training video because that gets pretty fancy. Another one that has a pretty fancy button and its own training video is the House of Quality QFD. These buttons do quite a few things that you're going to find pretty difficult to program on your own. So if there is a button, look for it. If there isn't a button, then you're going to need to sharpen your Excel skills. The first thing to remember is that in order to avoid messing up formulas, you usually want to select entire, not partial, rows and columns. And to do that, I first want to hover my mouse over the edge of the working area where the gray numbers and letters are until my cursor turns into a black arrow, and then hold down my left mouse button and then drag to include additional columns in my highlighted area. And in this case, notice that what at first glance appears to be single columns are actually groups of 2 columns
that always need to stay together. There are several systems to win templates like that, so always be sure to select the entire logical grouping of columns or rows.
Selecting entire rows or columns is particularly important on templates like the Gantt chart or the standard work combination sheet, because there are more columns off from your viewing area that contain more calculations. So if a template does not have a special button to add rows or columns, then the right way to insert rows or columns is actually to copy blank rows or columns that already contain the formulas and formats that you want in your new ones. Or maybe it does have an Add Rows button, but you don't want to insert blank rows. What you want to do might be to copy some existing rows using Control-C or your favorite way of copying, and then select the first row, the entire row, where you want to copy to. And once you've selected it, right-click and select Insert Copied Cells. Notice that it didn't just overwrite those cells like it would have if you just used Control-V or Paste. Instead, it shifted everything down and inserted the new copied rows. And now you might do some small editing to the rows that you copied. So for any template that does not have a special button for Add Rows, if you want to insert rows in a way that doesn't trash the formulas, then use Insert Copied Cells to copy similar blank rows. Oops! Some workbooks are intended to remain protected so you don't ruin your formulas, so you might get an error like this. So what do? Unprotect the sheet. There is no password. And then remember to re-protect as soon as possible so that you don't accidentally damage formulas. Then do it again. Select and copy your rows. Select the entire row below where you want to insert. Then right-click within that selected row and select Insert Copied Cells. On some simple workbooks where there are no formulas, it is safe to use simple insert rows, but it's always safest to instead copy a similar blank row. And because these rows aren't quite fully blank, let's just extend the auto numbering. Again, you're in Excel, not some proprietary software, so you can use everything you know about familiar Microsoft Excel. So how do you move rows or columns instead of copying them? You do the exact same thing with one tiny difference. First, select the row or columns that you want to move, and this time instead of copying, use Control-X to cut rather than copy. And again, select the entire, not partial, first row where you want to paste and right-click it. And now a menu item will appear that says Insert Cut Cells rather than Insert Copied Cells. And there you go. It moved that row to where you wanted it. Sure beats the old-fashioned way, right, of counting the number of rows that you want to move, coming down, inserting those, coming back up, copying those, going back down, pasting those, going back up, deleting those. Really? And of course, this is a Yamazumi chart, so we would want to click the Update Chart button now that we changed something. But that's another training video. And finally, let's mention that there are some situations, with one common example being the drop-down lists that get defined on the DV sheet. There are never formulas on a DV sheet. And if you're sure there are no formulas, then it is sometimes safe to select partial rather than entire rows or columns. And then you can do the exact same thing. Copy, Select the cell in the upper left corner of where you want to be copied to. Right-click Insert Copied Cells. It will ask if you want to shift cells to the right or down. This is what's so dangerous if there are formulas. Look out. And there you go. In this case, if we selected the entire row, it would mess up all the other drop-down lists. So we just want to make changes within this one column.